Krakow, the ancient capital of Poland, this capital city on the Vistula River in Lesser Poland, remained the hub of the kingdom until the year 1596, a leading center in Poland of economic, cultural, artistic, and academic life. Its old town with St. Mary's Basilica and the Old Cloth Hall is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There is an enormous amount to see in Krakow, but you have to start somewhere. And we're going to start at the beginning of the Royal Way. It stretches from Florianska Church, outside the ancient walls, through the Florianska Gate, to Wawel Hill, the origin place of the city known as Krakow. There on Wawel Hill, Krakow grew over 1,000 years ago from what had been a Stone Age settlement to a thriving hamlet. It's a fascinating place, and it would take a month or two, or even a lifetime, to really get to know this ancient city. So if you will, by way of introduction, let's take a walk along the royal route from St. Florian's Church down Florianska Street into the square, that fine old town square which UNESCO has recognized as one of the living monuments of civilization. Let's wander along the route, pausing to look at various quite stunning monuments until we find ourselves by the rolling Vistula River, under the Wawel Hill, near the cave of Krakow's legendary dragon. It's Krakow. It's Poland. It's Poland Daily Travel. Stay with us.
Hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Poland Daily Travel. We are here. I wonder if you can guess where we are. Well, you know from the intro actually where we are, but I wonder if you could guess. How many of you could guess if I didn't tell you? Because we, after 1 year of doing this program and 50 hours of material shot and in the can, and having been shown to you, we are now here in Krakow. That's right, Krakow, the ancient capital of Poland, although people from Gniezno might argue a bit about that, but that's not what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to tell you about this ancient city. Yes, it's a UNESCO cultural site, and that means it's one of the most treasured pieces of architecture in the world. You have to see it to believe it, and I hope that we will, over the next few programs in our own way, be able to show you something extremely interesting and hopefully watchable, because we're going to take a walk. We're just going to scratch the surface, but we're going to take a walk through Krakow on the royal route. And you will notice that Krakow is a huge tourist draw. That's right, at all times of year. So you will see tourists. And just before we started filming, in fact, there was a big group gathered around this statue down the way, which we'll be talking about some more in a little while. You have it's several million. I think it's about 8 million tourists come here every year. That was in 2017-18, and I don't know what the latest figures are, but that's a lot of tourists, and they're spending a huge amount of money here as well. There are 120 hotels in Krakow, and most of them are at least filled to half capacity, even at this time of the year. Although this is not the best time of year, perhaps, to come to Krakow, but you do get a real sense of Northern Europe at this time of year. And it's not too bad, actually. It's pretty ciepło relative to some of the snowy landscapes we usually get this time of year in Poland. Now you may be asking why I'm standing here particularly, maybe asking a lot of things, but I'll tell you why. Because this is the Florianska Church behind me. And this is an incredibly important church because it supposedly contains the relics of St. Florian. Now, who is St. Florian? Well, he's a patron saint of Poland, no less. And his story is absolutely fascinating. So, stay tuned. We'll come back and tell you what that story is. We're here in Krakow, and it's Poland Daily Travel. I'm Will. Stay with us and come back after this short bumper. So as I was saying before, we are here in the Jan Matejko Square, and he is very famous for his many portrayals of Polish battles, including the Battle of Grunwald, but not only. And we'll come to that in a second. But behind me, the St. Florian's Church is extremely important because this is the origin of not only the coronation processions, but also the funeral processions for the Polish kings and queens. And this has been taking place over hundreds of years. Who was St. Florian? St. Florian, the patron saint of Poland, was an extremely important man. And in some ways, he was a necessary man, because when he was made a saint, he had been dead for quite some time. You see, he was a Roman, and he was a Roman centurion, in fact, in charge of a large province called Nordicum, which was encompassing Austria, parts of the east, Slovenia, for example, parts east of that. He, St. Florian, was an early Christian who, in the terms of how the Romans looked at it, went renegade. That's right, he went native. He became a Christian and was no longer worshiping the Roman gods. That infuriated his, the Roman emperor, Diocletian, and the related clergy of the Roman Empire, if you can call them clergy, certainly the priests. At any rate, St. Florian refused to persecute Christians, and because of this, he was supposed to be burned at the stake. And in fact, he said, "I will willingly walk into that fire just to show you that I'm not afraid and God protects me." But in fact, the Romans were so taken aback, not that they gave him his freedom, but they decided to instead drown him in the river because they were afraid of what might happen. St. Florian was created as a saint at a time when Poland needed one. There was, or certainly Krakow needed one. And Krakow was claiming to be the capital of Poland and was in a rivalry with Gniezno, which is often called the original Polish city. And that's in near Poznan in Greater Poland, to the north of us. This is Lesser Poland. So St. Florian's relics were brought here to legitimize Krakow as a capital and an important Catholic city. The thing about St. Florian is also very interesting, and he would like this day because he is a patron saint of firefighters and of beer makers. I don't know why those two go together. And also of chimney sweeps and just basically preventing fire. And the reason he was called that is because there was a fire that burned down much of this area but left the church intact. And they said it was protected by St. Florian. So he became the patron saint of firefighters, chimney sweeps, and beautifully, and of course, beer makers. All things to do with water. So he'd probably appreciate this slightly soggy day today, more reminiscent of perhaps southern England than it is of Krakow. At any rate, St. Florian, patron saint of Poland, and an inescapable figure in this particular city, because as we proceed on, we'll come to Florianska Street, and there'll be plenty to talk about there. But before we do that, stay tuned for the next episode when we're going to go and look at the monument to Grunwald and check out the incredible Barbican, which is next to the Florianska Gate and leads into the Old Town on the next part of the Royal Route. Stay with us.